Hello, welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. Wow, she looks so cute. Aw. Hey there, Makina. Sorry, but can you watch over Sachi for the rest of the day?
もちろんなのよ。お医者さんが主役の本ならたくさん読んでるし、ポリープの切除からバイパス手術までお手の物なのよさ。
Oh, very reassuring.
それに私もついてるしね。
Sorry, kinda feels like I'm pushing all the hassle onto you.
別にいいって。さすがに男の子が女の子につきっきりってわけにもいかないしさ。
You're quick on the uptake. I like that about you.
その代わり今度は私がユージに一日面倒を見てもらうってこともあるかもしれないしね。
Has this woman already forgotten the words she literally just said? Or has she simply decided the rules don't apply to her? I'll see what I can do about that.
へっへっへ。
Smirking in a way more befitting a dirty old man than a young woman, Amane saunters back to the kitchen. All well and good that I got my classmate through her little crisis unscathed, but that achievement seems to have come at a considerable price. It's pretty common to hear something or other described as a microcosm of society. In particular, school is a highly popular choice. It's practically a cliche that you can judge the health of a country by the condition of its classrooms. Just anything in that country, not always the classrooms. Declining academic performance, drug abuse, all the way up to violent juvenile crime. You can interpret pretty much any schoolyard problem as a reflection of societal decay if you want to. But even as someone who tends to look on such arguments with skepticism, it's clear to me that the malign influence of our national slide into depravity has begun to rear its ugly head in this isolated academy of ours. He gets really descriptive about a lot of things.
ピシッ。そら、もっといい声で泣いてみせろ。
そんなに冷めたテンションでぶたれちゃうと、マキナいけない子になっちゃうのよさ。
First thing in the morning, a completely random spanking show is unfolding before my eyes. One can only grieve for the future of our nation. Curious to see how the others are reacting to this shameful display, I look around the classroom to find a grimacing observer, her face all but saying, I thought those two were getting into some weird territory lately, but this is taking things to a whole new level of awkward. So this is a punishment they were talking about, but they wouldn't know that. A casual observer, humming to herself as she prepares for class, who glances over briefly with an expression that reads, "Ah, so that's today's game?" And finally, an observer who feigns total disinterest even as she peeks past the book in front of her to take in every moment of the show, an intriguing, colorful range of variation. This is what happens when you plan stuff to do and then no one is around to hear you plan it. Perhaps one could interpret this as necessary stimulation to a stagnant group dynamic?
んなわけないでしょうが。こんな気候を注意しない学校がどこにあるってのよ。
Well,
ここにとかいうボケならいらないわよ。それが分かったらあんたはあれやめさせてきて。
pushed forward by Machiru, I reluctantly initiate an intervention with the pair of girls on the teacher's platform. Sachi, mind explaining this?
はい、これは私がマキちゃんのお尻をペンペンしているところです。
Yes, I can see that. I'm asking why you felt the need to do so.
それはマキちゃんにお願いされたからです。
Makina asked for this?
はい、昨日の夜そうお願いされましたから。
Right, when Sachi came to her senses in Amane's room.
じゃあ早く元気になって私のお尻をペンペンしてくれるのを待ってるのよ。
分かった。
And Sachi's not really capable of recognizing that as a joke. I had an ominous premonition the moment I heard that sentence, but you really did go through with it, in public even.
はい、約束しましたから。
Maybe it felt that way to Sachi, but somehow I doubt Makina was taking it quite that seriously.
でもただお尻を叩かれるだけじゃつまんないから設定を作ってちょっとしたごっこ遊びにしたのよ。
A plot?
そう今のは同棲を始めて1年が経ったカップルがマンネリを感じて祖父とハマるっていう設定だったのよさ。
祖父と。
Sure. Pipe down, Peanut Gallery. If you're interested, look it up on the internet in your own time.
しないわよ。
A denial this unconvincing is a rare thing in its own right.
ねえねえ、さっきから昨日の夜とか約束って何かあったの？
It'd take a while to explain it in full, but I'm sure a wise young woman like yourself would already have a rough idea of what occurred, right?
そうね。そんなの私なんだから当然よ。扱いやす。さすがみちる様です。そう私ってすごい？はい、悪い意味で。悪い意味で？ってそれ褒められてる私。すごいですから良くも悪くも抜きん出ているという意味にはなると思います。そっか。まあ嘘は言ってないわよね。そうかしら。ふふふふふ意識しなくてもにじみ出る知性、さすが私。確かにみちるのこういうとこってすごいのかも。そうかしら。
Well, to get back to the point, I can't say I approve of putting on an early morning spanking show in the classroom.
じゃあ夜に電気消してなら問題ないのよ。
Your choice of lighting isn't the problem here.
第一、学校で堂々とやるようなことじゃないでしょ。
Actually, depending on the scenario.
話がややこしくなるから、そういう解釈はなしの方向で。
Understood.
というわけで今後はその遊び禁止。
理解はしたけど納得はしてない。恋する乙女のように複雑な心境なのよさ。
さっちゃんもお尻ペンペンはこれでおしまいにしてね。
はい、わかりました。
As Amani drags Makina away by the scruff of her neck, Sachi heads obediently back to her seat, a satisfied expression on her face. Makina is clearly responsible for turning her spanking into some kind of public humiliation show, but I'm pretty sure Sachi was the one who brought up the topic in the first place. Dutifully remembering a favor that otherwise might well have been forgotten, she proactively carried it out with genuine enthusiasm. On the abstract level, Sachi sounds like a model class representative, but when you consider the specific details, it's hard to shake the feeling that something stranger is working behind her behavior. Might be worth seeing what the higher-ups have to say about this. After polishing off my simple lunch of homemade rice balls, I head to the principal's office. Having a productive day? Did your wagashi cakes complement the tea?
今日は洋菓子の日よ。
Since she answered my valiant attempt at small talk with a smile, Chizuru seems to be reasonably receptive to my sudden visit.
それで用事は何？まさか嫌味を言いにここまで来たわけじゃないんでしょ？
Right, I've got a question for you as the principal of this academy, Chizuru.
何かしら？
I want to ask you something about our class representative, Komine Sachi, that is.
目的は分かったけれど、小峰さんっていうのはちょっと意外ね。
What's that supposed to mean?
答えはないわよ。ただの感想だから。
Alright then.
で、どうして急に小峰さんのことを？
We had a bit of an incident yesterday. Sachi stayed in a hot bath long enough that she actually fainted. And that was instigated by nothing more than an offhand comment from Makina about counting to 10,000 in the bath.
そう。
You don't seem particularly surprised. Is this sort of behavior a recent development, or have you seen something of the sort before?
そうね。最終的には何ともなかったけど、ひやりとさせられたことなら何度かあるわね。一番びっくりしたのは、期末の大掃除の時にロープ一本で校舎の外壁を掃除し始めた時かしら。
Come to think of it, I remember someone telling me about that one. Nothing serious came of that?
ええ、そこは業者の人にやってもらうから大丈夫って叫んだら、すぐに校舎の中に戻ってくれたわよ。
I see. Despite all the strange ideas she gets in her head, it does seem that Sachi consistently listens to reason. That's a silver lining, to be sure.
それで、私からそれを聞いたあなたはどうするつもりなの？
At the moment, I don't intend to do anything in particular. If anything, I suppose my short-term objective was just to confirm how much the principal of this school really knows about her pupils.
なるほどね。でもその点については心配しなくてもいいと思うわよ。
I don't?
ええ。仕事で一度顔を合わせただけだった私があなたに連絡を取れたということがその証明にはならないかしら。
True enough. Somehow or other, the woman I'm speaking with has been entrusted with control of Mihama Academy as an organization. I suppose it's only natural that she be thoroughly familiar with the quirks of the handful of students under her supervision.
これで私への疑いは晴れたかしら。
Yeah, I've once again realized that you're a fine woman.
そう言ってもらえると嬉しいわね。
Smoothly switching her crossed legs, Teaser offers me a prototypical composed older woman smile.
ただこうしてわざわざ聞きに来てくれたわけだし、あなたが小峰さんについて知りたいというなら私が持っている範囲の情報を開示してもいいわよ。
No, that won't be necessary.
どうして？彼女のことをもっと知っていれば今後の学生生活もやりやすくなるんじゃない？
Probably true, but this isn't a job, and I don't have any pressing need to know. And there aren't many people who go asking a teacher for information on a classmate, are there?
クラスメートね。
Look, it still feels kind of awkward, but I'm making a conscious effort to talk about these things like a normal student. Try not to laugh.
そうね、ごめんなさい。でもそうやって自分に言い聞かせていくのは悪いことじゃないと思うわよ。
Hope you're right. In between stretches of peace, I plunge into the extraordinary. In between periods where I devote my attention to my part-time job, I return to the ordinary. As that ratio has slowly shifted, I've developed a persistent, nagging discomfort with myself. And there's a part of me that doesn't even want that to change. A part of me that's uneasy about getting too used to this.
もう一度言うけれど、この学園の生徒となったあなたに私から望むことはありません。あなたの好きなように思うままに学生生活を満喫してもらえれば満足よ。
If you actually mean that, you've got pretty eccentric taste in entertainment.
あなたも私くらいの年になればわかると思うけど、ある程度の地位とお金が手に入ると新しい息抜きを見つけるのも大変なのよ。
Judging from the steadily increasing quantity of knickknacks in this office, I guess I can believe it.
そこまで増えてはいないと思うわよ。
Even as she speaks, the principal stealthily palms a few desk toys and drops them into a drawer. This instinctive sneakiness might have something to do with how she clawed her way up the ladder. Alright, I think it's about time I headed back.
ええ。風見くんも休みの時間を有効に使ってね。
I've already eaten lunch, if that's what you're worried about.
休み時間に限ったことじゃなくて 本当に自由な時間の話。
What's that supposed to mean?
私だけじゃなく、息抜きは誰にでも必要ってことよ。
The principal winks suggestively as he speaks. Unfortunately, I don't quite follow. What does the woman want me to do? True enough, in that case, I'll kill some time trying to guess your age teaser.
きっとあなたが思っているより若いよ。
I retract any previous compliments I may have given you. When I return to the classroom, Sachi's eating her lunch by herself. For once, she's actually spread out a proper lunchbox. A rare sight indeed. From what I've seen, Sachi almost always goes for light, efficient meals. A lunchbox today, huh?
はい、朝ごはんのおかずが少し余ってしまったので無駄にならないようにと。
I see. For a leftovers lunch, it's a pretty decent spread. At a glance, she's got an omelette with Vienna sausages, mini tomatoes, and broccoli, a colorful and well-balanced assortment. Doesn't exactly have the master housewife impression of an Amane meal, but it's fair to call it a nicely made lunch. You did cook at Michiru's request the other day, come to think of it. Are you actually something of a chef?
いえ、あまねさんの腕前には遠く及びませんし、お手本を見ながらならなんとかというレベルです。
As if to demonstrate, Sachi pulls a cookbook out of her desk and flips it open to a photograph of an omelette. It's strikingly similar to the one in her lunchbox. No need to be modest. Making it look exactly like the book is impressive in its own right.
ありがとうございます。それで
楽器室にあるあまねさんが使ったフルートをこっそり吹いてしまった疑惑は晴れましたか？
Wait, what? What?
男子学生が先生と1対1で話をするときはそういう話をしているものなのでは？
Okay. No. What is it with you, Sachi? Your thoughts always run off in these unique directions.
複雑な評価です。
In the first place, why would I be after Amane's spit? Also, does she have a flute? Once the conversation comes to a pause, Sachi smoothly returns to her lunch, carrying food to her mouth with the regular rhythm of a workman on an assembly line. As I'm watching her oddly mechanical behavior, the principal's words float across my mind. Hey, Sachi.
はい、なんでろ
First of all, you can chew and swallow what you've got in your mouth before trying to talk.
う。わかりました。
With a small nod, Sachi wholeheartedly devotes her attention to mastication for a few moments.
お待たせしました。それで風見さんが先ほど言いかけたことは？
Yeah, I was wondering if you have some sort of regular method of letting off steam. You know, managing your stress.
ストレス発散方法ですか。そういうお話なら私はあまり参考にならないと思います。
Why not?
私はこの学園にいる間はストレスを感じたことがありませんから。
That's honestly pretty hard to swallow, but judging from Sachi's expression, I don't think she's outright lying to me. They do say that in America, where they don't really have the concept of stiff shoulders, nobody complains of the symptoms. Maybe this is a similar case?
ですからそういった質問はみちる様にしてみるのがいいと思いますよ。
So, what, does Mature have some daily stress relief method?
そうだと思います。例えばこの前なんかは。
サチ
みちる様、ソファーの影なんかに隠れて何をやっているんですか？
とりあえず声出さずに私の部屋までついてきて。よし、ひとまず誰にも気づかれなかったわね。いきなり引っ張ってきちゃって悪いわね、サチ。なんで何も喋らないの？宗教的なやつ？じゃあ何？ってそっか、声はもう出していいわよ。
わかりました。
やっぱりね。
それで私に何かご用でしょうか？
ああ、手頃な大きさのぬいぐるみを持ってたら私に譲ってほしいのよ。
種別の指定がないのでしたらいくつかは持っていますが。
さすがサチ。じゃああんたのチョイスで一つ選んできてちょうだい。
わかりました。私的にはこのうさぎさんのぬいぐるみがおすすめなのですが。
かわいい感じね。それからサインペンとか持ってない？
はい、こちらに。
ありがとう。で、このぬいぐるみの額にこうゆうじ。
なるほど。それを風見さんだと思って抱きしめ、偽りのぬくもりに身を任せるんですね。
違うわよ。これはそう、サンドバッグなんだから。
サンドバッグですか？
そうよ。このぬいぐるみを有事に見立てていつでも急所を狙えるように練習しておくの。ストレス発散も兼ねてね。ぬえい、うえい。
そうですか。ということがありました。
The heck's wrong with that bottle blonde?
よければお揃いのぬいぐるみをお譲りしましょうか？
No, that won't be necessary.
そうですか。
Although it's a little sad to say this myself, dropping a fancy stuffed animal in the middle of that dreary room of mine would be painfully awkward. And the idea of having a matching set of anything with Machiro is somehow even less appealing. Anyway, something came to mind while I was listening to all this. If you really don't relax, what do you do with your free time?
私は基本的に空いた時間というものを作らないようにしています。
In other words, you're like a shark, always moving even when at rest?
いえ、 休息するときは普通にベッドで休みますし、口で説明するよりは実際に見てもらった方が分かりやすいと思います。
Well, probably so.
風見さんさえよろしければ今日にでもお見せできますけど。
So what, you telling me to follow you around from morning to night?
それか授業が終わってから就寝するまでの時間でしょうか。
From what I understand, Sachi's proposal isn't problematic in terms of the school's rules, but I'm a little hesitant to peep into her private life out of mere curiosity.
私は気にしませんよ。
Read my mind, huh? Alright, how about after class ends tomorrow?
はい、それでは私も明日は体をきれいにしてお待ちしていますね。
What are you preparing for exactly? After school tomorrow, huh? Things have taken a somewhat strange turn, but I can't deny I've gotten slightly curious about Sachi's way of life. Should be an interesting experience, if nothing else. A distinctive droning sound, strikingly out of place in this quiet coastal town. Guess I've got a visitor. As expected, when I head up to the school gate, a genuine blonde emerges from the interior of her prancing horse.
はーい、ユージ。調子はどう？
Not bad as of 3 minutes ago. Unfortunately, my mood just now took a nosedive.
何よ。海外しく会いに来た女に対して最初に言うセリフがそれ？
If I was really dealing with a woman, maybe I'd be a little more careful with my words, but I was taught to be frank and to the point with my superiors.
相変わらず冗談が通じないわね。
It's your fault for putting on that ridiculous marble-mouthed airhead act in the first place.
まあ、あなたがこういう女が苦手だってことは知ってるけどね。
Which makes the way you always pretend to be one downright sadistic. So, what's with the sudden visit? Some urgent business come up?
いいえ、今日は風見雄二の保護者としてちょっと経過観察にね。
What, work not keeping you busy these days?
言ってみればこれも仕事のうちよ。
Fine, we'll leave it at that.
それで何か困っていることはない？設備やお金、それからクラスメートの女の子には相談できないようなこととか。
The heck? What if I tell you I can't control my libido anymore? You going to take care of that for me?
そういう気持ちが起こらなくなるくらい仕事を振らせてもらうわ。
Oh, sorry, my bad.
そうそう。お姉さんの質問には最初から真面目に答えておくもの
I
よ。
don't even know what to say to that. I'll see what I can do.
それで本当のところはどう？
Seriously, I've got exactly no problems worth mentioning. This place is almost comically well equipped, and my allowance is more than enough for my everyday needs.
そう、それならよかったわ。
You satisfied now?
まああなたの方から連絡がない限り心配ないとは思っているけどね。
Yeah, that's right.
じゃあそれとは別に何か気になっていることはない？
What's anything else supposed to mean?
例えば近所の犬が行方不明になったとか、クラスメートの中に気になる子がいるとかね。
Sorry, but what do you care?
難しく考えなくてもいいわよ。本当にただ気になっているってだけでいいから。
After all these years, JB probably knows me better than anyone else alive. I don't think she asked me this question for no reason whatsoever. Alright then, let me ask your opinion on something.
言ってみて。
What would you think about someone who's never refused anyone's orders, even once, or turned down a request for that matter?
それはそういうプレイのお話？
No, we are not. I'm asking for your thoughts as my superior on this one.
そうね。
JB slowly brings her hand to her chin. In the next instant, her eyes grow sharp and serious. It's a familiar sight. I guess you could call it her business face. When JB switches into work mode, she has a habit of putting that expression on like a suit of armor.
もしそういう人間がいたら真っ先に訓練の線を疑うわね。
Thought as much. There's more. The person in question doesn't seem to experience any stress in their daily life.
それが本当だとしたら全くもって羨ましい話ね。
I'm with you there.
ただストレスは本人の自覚がないところでも蓄積されていくから、本人が気づいていないだけという場合も十分あり得るわ。人が頭をかく仕草一つとってもストレスの一部なんだもの。
Exactly. So what happens when that builds up without the person in question even noticing it? I guess you could say I'm slightly concerned.
そう。
With that non-committal response as a line of demarcation, GB relaxes her face and lets the tension drain out of her body.
保護者の義務としてこの学園のことは簡単に調べさせてもらったけど、やっぱり有事の興味を引くような学生さんがいるみたいね。
Yeah. When I get a nagging sense of a concern like this, it's almost never just me overthinking things. I've got good instincts, if nothing else. That was the reason I confirmed my impressions with Chizuru as well. If I'm not wrong about this, then...
でも少し安心したわ。
What is?
ユージからそういう質問が出てきたことに対してよ。
I just tried to give you what you wanted to hear.
だとしてもこれまでのあなただったらそんなものはないって即答していたはずよ。
If that was supposed to be an imitation of me, I'd recommend giving up on your dream of becoming a comedian after retirement.
ご忠告ありがとう。でもユージくらいの年頃の男の子だったらおしゃれや女の子に興味があって当然よ。それなのにあなたが私に聞いてくるのはいつも火薬臭いことばかりなんだもの。
Can't deny it.
でしょ。だからきっと ど、これはいい傾向よ。じゃあ定期面談はこれで終わり。しばらくしたらまた顔を出すわ。
Do me a favor and give a little advance warning next time. It's bad for my heart to have beautiful women popping up out of nowhere.
ドキドキ感があった方が嬉しいでしょ。
Smirking, JB slides her sunglasses back into place. With smooth, practiced movements of her hands, she steers the prancing horse away from the school. In the blink of an eye, it's disappeared into the distance. That engine never gets any less obnoxious. Out of consideration for our neighbors, maybe I should stuff some potatoes into the muffler next time I have the chance. In any case, JB has a point. If I was still the same person who'd impassively devoted himself to the job, I wouldn't have developed this kind of an interest in Sachi's personal life. Quite the opposite, I'd be keeping potential trouble at arm's length. Of course, in this case, my doormate's problems might have repercussions for me, but there's definitely a part of this that can't be explained by simple self-interest. Apparently, this change in my thinking is dramatic enough to take even JB by surprise. In that sense, I guess the first problem is that I can't even tell why I'm changing. Matching students of different school years into a single classroom and giving them an identical course of instruction is typically referred to as a combined class system. It's most frequently used in rural elementary schools where low population and limited resources sometimes make it an unavoidable cost-saving measure. I guess Miyama might be called an unusual variation on that system. Amane is a year ahead of me, Sachi and Makina a year below, but we're all currently being taught how to solve quadratic functions by factorization. Of course, even in rural areas, they don't tend to squash 3 years into one. You'd usually have to go to South Korea to see anything like this.
それじゃあ小峰さん、ちょっと難しいけど次の問題を解いてみて。
x かっこ 3x マイナス1。
正解。さすが小峰さん、しっかり勉強しているわね。
ありがとうございます。
小峰さんなら国立大学の入試問題でも普通に答えてしまいそうね。
Taking in Sachi's effortless response out of the corner of her eye, Tsukaki mumbles words of admiration.
私また気づいちゃったかも。
なに？ツンデレ練習機の電源でも入れっぱなしだった？
Synthesizes. What?
違うわよ。もし本当にそんな機械あったら買ってるけど。
買うのかよ。
Okay, so what did you realize?
もしかしたらサチって先生に当てられて答えられなかったこともないんじゃない？そう言われればそうなのよさ。
As of 2 days ago, I probably would have reacted with skepticism at this point, but after what I've learned about Sachi lately, this seems all too plausible.
ことはまさかテストの点も全部満点だったり？
いえ、前回のテストもそうなのですが、100点以外の点も取っています。
それ見たことか。
ここにサチの腐敗神話破れたり。なんであなたが得意げなのよ。
ごめん、なんとなく。確かに全部というわけじゃないけれど、小峰さんの場合はケアレスミスがほとんどで、常に満点に近い数字よ。
すごい。調子に乗ってすみませんでした。
なんで謝られているんでしょう、私。
察してあげるのよ。相手の遺伝子が自分より優れていると悟った時の本能的行動なのよさ。
そうなんだ。
でも私的にはちょっと残念かも。
What? That Sachi's grades aren't always perfect?
そう、ここまで来たらどこまでもっていうか、サチにはずっと汚れのないままでいてほしかったのよね。
たとえおかしいし。
なんだかよくわからないですけど、ごめんなさい。
別に謝らなくてもいいってば。全部が満点じゃなくても私には到底真似できないことなんだから。
From a common sense perspective, it seems completely obvious. No matter how much of a genius you are or how much time you spend practicing, it's difficult for any human being to maintain absolute perfection. That said, in Sachi's case, I have this odd feeling that she's only missing questions because nobody's asked her to get perfect scores constantly yet. Am I just overestimating her?
でもユミコも言ってたけど、サチならどんな問題でも答えられちゃいそうな気がするのよね。
Can you solve a Millennium Prize problem?
実際当てられた問題に必ず答えてる記録は継続中なんじゃないかしら。
この学園に来てからということなら、そうなると思います。
だったら余計にどこまで難しい問題なら答えられるかって気にならない？
Well, I can more or less identify with the sentiment. The girl's a curious specimen, to be sure.
じゃあ実際に試してみればいいんじゃね？
でもさ、さっちゃんが答えられないような問題を出すんだったら、少なくともさっちゃんより頭のいい人じゃないとダメじゃない？絶対答えられない問題じゃ意味ないだろうし。
それならお兄ちゃんが適任だな。
ああ、そっか。ユージって仏頂面のくせに頭はいいしね。
For the record, a sourpuss face has absolutely no relevance to academic results.
そうね。ユージの手を借りるのはちょっと尺だけど、あとは任せたわ。
Sorry, what's that supposed to mean?
つまりあんたはサチの解けなさそうな問題を出す係に任命されたのよ。
I guess I don't mind giving her a test, but shouldn't you be asking for her consent before appointing anybody?
私は大丈夫ですよ。
Well, I did pretty much expect an answer along those lines, but still.
というわけでレポートよろしく。
私たちも手伝えることがあったら手伝うしね。もちろんなのよさ。
Alright, I guess. Since a consensus seems to have emerged, I suppose I'll go along with it. No need to struggle against the current.
そろそろ授業を進めさせてもらってもいい？
Maybe I shouldn't be saying this to your face, Sachi, but you're seriously a soft touch. There's such a thing as being too cooperative.
そうでしょうか。
Assigned a strange new responsibility by the whims of my capricious classmates, I'm holding an impromptu rooftop meeting with Sachi to discuss the specifics. Yes, you just committed yourself to an academic stress test with no real point beyond satisfying our classmates' curiosity, if you hadn't noticed.
確かにそうですね。
Although Sachi obediently accepts my words on a superficial level, she doesn't really seem to recognize this situation as inconvenient. Well, if this doesn't bother you, I won't say you were wrong to accept.
その点は大丈夫です。むしろ私みたいなメス奴隷に興味を持っていただけるのは嬉しいことだと思います。
Where did you pick up that phrase?
コンビニエンスストアの雑誌売り場で一番端に並んでいた本の表紙に書いてありました。
Ah, I see. I vaguely suspected as much for a while now, but it seems you're a member in good standing of the masochist community, Sachi.
自分で意識したことはないのですが、風見さんがそう感じられたのならそうなんだと思います。それにもし私が M だとしたらド S の風見さんと相性はバッチリなはずです。
When did I get promoted to super sadist exactly?
いつでしょう。
When Sachi gets like this, it really does feel like you're talking to an enigmatic maid with a deadpan sense of humor, but now that I think about it, that impression is probably misleading. The girl's defining characteristics are her earnest personality and impressive range of skills. She accepts nearly every request that comes her way. She's an excellent student, and from what I've seen, she's respectably athletic as well. In a way, she's less a maid and more the ideal personification of an honor student, but she takes it to such an extreme that it's too hard to keep yourself from thinking she might be too good to be true.
そんな風に上から下まで舐め回すような視線を向けられてしまうと私困ってしまいます。
Sorry, can I smack you after all?
その場合、いや、このけだものと暴れた方が風見さんはお好みでしょうか。
Okay, I think a firm press of the reset button is called for at this point. Let's get back on topic, Sachi.
はい、どうぞ。
There's a couple things I want to ask about before pointing out this little experiment. Do you take any specific measures to prepare for teachers asking you to solve a problem in class?
そうですね。授業はテストと違って教科書の問題をそのまま出される場合がほとんどですから、一通り予習をしておけば大体のことは答えられます。
Certainly true, but studying until you can solve every single problem in the upcoming material usually requires an impractical amount of time and effort. Although she's clearly devoted as well, Sachi must naturally be something of a quick learner. Alright then, what would you do in a situation where you absolutely need someone else's cooperation to fulfill a request?
それは榊さんとみちる様の喧嘩を止めろというような場合でしょうか。
Right. With a mission like that, don't you run into a dead end if they just refuse to listen?
そういった場合は許される範囲内で別のやり方を考えますが、頼まれた内容や状況によっても変わってくるので、一概にこうというのは難しいかもしれません。
I see. Don't really tend to think of Sachi as a flexible thinker, but it seems she does consider her challenges on a case-by-case basis.
それより風見さん、今日は私の部屋に遊びに来られるということでいいんですよね。
Yeah, that was the plan, unless there's a problem on your end.
わかりました。ではまた放課後に。
Right. In any case, today I'm going to be directly observing Sachi's private life. That may well provide me with some insight into what makes this distinctly unusual human being tick.
時間ね。それじゃあ今日の授業はこれで終わりになるけど、明日は終業式だからみんな遅刻しないようにね。
サチサチ、あんた今日は何か予定あるの？
風見さんに私のすべてをお見せしようと思っていますけど。
What? All of a sudden, 3 of my classmates spring to their feet as one. She have to say it like that. What? Was there a tremor? Can't say I noticed.
地震じゃなくてサチの発言に驚いたのよ。
私ですか？
だって全てを見せるって言ったらねえ浜根さん。
その男女の関係っていうかねえ榊さん。
まあ不純異性行為だと言われても仕方ないわね。
I see. The precise nature of your collective delusion is now clear to me. Let's be perfectly clear, that's not what Sachi meant just now.
はい、私はただこの体が風見さんのストレスのはけ口になればと。
What? Why does everything have to have that kind of understanding?
やっぱりか。
最低ね。
The chorus draws a few steps away from me and begins to discuss something in venomous whispers, shooting me scornful glances out of the corner of their eyes. Alright, there are other ways to describe it, and neither of those 2 ways that you just said are it, Sachi. Sorry, Sachi, but please keep your mouth shut until I'm done explaining. Listen up, alright. I'm just dropping by Sachi's room for a visit. That's the full extent of the plan she's talking about.
なんでそんなことになったのよ。
Apparently, Sachi doesn't believe in giving herself free time. I was kind of dubious, so she volunteered to demonstrate directly what that means.
なんだ、そういうことか。
Once I provide a brief explanation of the circumstances, my three interrogators cool down surprisingly easily. Amane's tone suggests she's all but lost interest. Not that I'm complaining, but you're strangely understanding.
だってそれ、私たちも見せてもらったことがあるから。ま
She has?
あ、考えることはみんな同じっていうか、私たちもあんたと同じことが気になったわけ。
So, what's going on behind that curtain?
それは自分の目で確かめた方がいいわ。きっと口で説明されても納得できないと思うから。
In other words, their own version of this field trip must have left a decidedly ambiguous impression.
一応言っておくけど、女の子の部屋では紳士的にね。
Yeah, I'll make a conscious effort not to disrupt Sachi's private life any more than necessary.
そういう意味じゃないんだけどね。
Sakaki heaves a small sigh. Makina, who's shown absolutely no interest in this conversation till this point, promptly sidles over and yanks on her sleeve.
安心したか？
何が？
Alright then, would meeting at the lobby in an hour or so work for you?
はい、よろしくお願いします。
ま、勝手にやったらいいわよ。私には全然関係ないんだから。
Considering how little you supposedly care, I find it slightly odd that you've been telling me since I left the classroom.
別に尾行なんてしてないわよ。私の視線の先にたまたまあんたがいるだけっていうか、ああ、私の部屋にも遊びに来なさいよね。
And there she goes. Probably just wanted to say that last bit from the very beginning. The Tsundere's slot is not a happy one. Uh,
ねえ、あまねえ、サチはさっきから何をバタバタやってるのよ。
女の子かな。
なぞなぞか？あまねえのくせに生意気な。
生意気じゃない。てか、あんた時々忘れるけど、私の方が年上なんだからね。
Alright, you ready?
はい、それでは早速私の部屋にご案内しますね。どうぞ中に入ってください。
Is it? Okay. I will see this little part and then that'll be it. The first thing that catches my eye is a large locker, similar to the one Sachi uses as a storehouse in the classroom. It's also the only thing that catches my eye. There's not much else in the way of distinctive personal touches in here. Minimalist if you put it nicely, plain if you don't. But personally, I'm just grateful it isn't some frilly abomination full of stuffed animals and overpowering scented candles.
ぬいぐるみならいくつかロッカーの中にありますよ。
You might think I'd actually asked.
ちなみに私の部屋に男の人が入るのは初めてです。
That a fact? Come to think of it, I haven't even poked my head in Sachi's room before.
つまり風見さんが初めての人ということになりますね。
Try not to put it like that where other people can hear you, which your own company would misunderstand again, understandably in this case.
そうですね。
Well,
気をつけます。
that's how she wants to think about it. So, once you're back in your room, what's the first order of business normally?
それは風見さんと同じ。
Right, let me rephrase that. The first order of business after you change out of the uniform.
腕を上げましたね、風見さん。
At what? Also, couldn't you have gotten changed before I came over?
それが今日はお掃除をしていたので。
And why did you have to do that today in particular?
そういえばなぜでしょう。
If you don't know the answer, I doubt anyone else will.
次に夕飯の支度時間まで勉強をします。
They have a lot of different transitions too. It's neat. After changing into her casual clothes, if the term can even apply to a maid uniform, in the back, Sachi begins to unpack a range of study materials from her school bag. Alright, don't worry about me. Go right ahead like you always do.
わかりました。
With that concise answer, Sachi promptly heads over to her desk.
まずは。
After carefully spreading out her notes in a few textbooks, Sachi begins solving problems at a steady pace. In no time at all, she's absorbed in the task at hand. Even watching from behind, her concentration is almost startling. First of all, she goes over the problems we reviewed today a second time. When that's done, she moves methodically through everything we might possibly cover in the next class. Even as she jumps to new material and different subjects, her pen never stops its regular, mechanical motion across her notebook paper. If nothing else, it's quite a display of academic prowess. You study this much every day?
はい、学校の先生たちから勉強を頑張れと言われてきましたから。
That's your reason?
そうですけど、どこか変でしょうか。
No, strange would be an overstatement. Although personally speaking, it seems way too weak a motivation to inspire this kind of effort.
これで今日の勉強は終わりです。
Getting up from her seat without even pausing to stretch, Sachi immediately begins to pack away her books and study aids. Next up would be preparing dinner then?
風見さん、今私の心を読みましたか？
Don't give me that utterly astounded face. You told me your schedule before, remember?
そういえばそうでした。目から鱗です。
Been a while since I heard that catchphrase. Anyway, while you're eating dinner, I guess I should...
もしよければ 風見さんも一緒に食べていきますか？
That really alright with you?
はい、皆さんが見に来られた時もそうしていましたし、その方が手間も省けると思うのですが、ダメでしょうか？
No, I don't have any reason to refuse. I'll take you up on that.
ありがとうございます。
I watch idly as Sachi trots off toward the kitchen to prepare the meal. Just now, her smile seemed unusually happy. Was it just my imagination?
縁を切るより人参切ろう、皮を剥くなら玉ねぎの。
About 10 minutes after Sachi began her preparations, I hear the rhythmical sound of a kitchen knife striking a cutting board. Within a few moments, she accompanies the steady percussion with a bizarre song, almost certainly another of Makina's compositions.
トントン。
Up to this point, I can't deny she's given herself exactly nothing in the way of legitimate free time. Frankly, her constant motion and eager devotion to her tasks aren't particularly different from what I normally see out of her in school. From the smell of things, it's curry, huh?
ご明察です。それに風見さんはカレーがお好きでしたよね。
Yeah. Curry was downright treasured at my old school. It's filling, nutritious, and tends to taste decent no matter who makes it. And apart from the practical appeal, it does fall into the category of food I personally prefer. But have I ever declared myself a curry fanatic in front of Sachi? I'm not the sort of enthusiastic gourmand who makes a habit of advertising his tastes. Sachi
どうかしまし
specifically?
たか？
No, it's nothing. Well, there's no need to think too hard about something that trivial.
ちなみに風見さんは隠し味にヨーグルトを入れても平気な方ですか？
That's fine. I'm not what you would call a picky eater anyway. As a rule, I eat whatever is put on my plate.
尋ねる前からそんな気はしていたのですが、それだと天音さんもやりやすいかもしれませんね。
Maybe, but she complains it's less satisfying when there's no challenge.
天音さんらしいですね。
Sachi keeps up a natural flow of conversation without ever losing focus on the work at hand. Considering how busy she keeps herself, I don't really have many opportunities to make small talk with Sachi, so this sort of idle conversation feels a bit novel. Come to think of it, when did you start cooking for yourself, Sachi?
この学園に来てからです。
Out of necessity, in other words?
はい、それまではおばさんがご飯を作ってくれていましたから。
Auntie, huh? First I've heard of her, but grilling Sachi about her family would probably fall on the tactless side of things. Not that long then. Seems like you're quick on the uptake.
そうですね。どちらかといえば水なしで薬を飲んだりするのは得意ですよ。
Sure, whatever.
お待たせしました。
In the time it takes for our conversation to run off the tracks into total incoherence, the Sachi-style curry has reached completion. Okay, it's just done. The curry itself is impressively attractive, and I've got no complaints about the smell either. The salad she's added as a sort of garnish appears fresh and appetizing as well, so as a whole there's no reason to hesitate. Alright then, I'm going to get right to it.
どうぞ召し上がってください。
After briefly bringing my hands together for politeness' sake, I scoop up a spoonful of curry and bring it to my mouth. I can summarize my impressions fairly concisely. It's homemade curry. Rather than the spicy variety you might be served at a restaurant, it's mild, soothing comfort food anyone could eat. But for some reason, Sachi's intently watching me eat instead of starting in on her own share. Don't worry, it doesn't seem to be poisoned. Go ahead and eat, Sachi.
そうですね。
Once I point this out to her, Sachi starts to move her spoon as well. Without much in the way of conversation, we quietly carry spoonful after spoonful of curry to our mouths. Among other things, the acidity of the yogurt she added as flavoring tempers the aftertaste nicely, so there's no real need to pause.
風見さん、もう完食です。
So it seems. Before I know it, the reasonably sized helping she'd served me has vanished altogether.
ルーはたくさんあるので、今おかわりをお持ちしますね。
As Sachi leans forward to take my plate, I reflexively reach out and drop a hand on top of her head. Nice work, Sachi. It's not often that I actually want a second helping. As I lightly ruffle her hair, a visible jolt of surprise runs through Sachi's body. Sorry, sort of realized I hadn't given you my thoughts or anything. Just a spur of the moment thing.
いえ、少し驚いただけなので。
In that case, mind if I keep this up a little longer? You did ask for more of my praise after all. That's weirdly cute.
驚きました。風見さん、私のお願いを覚えていてくれたんですか？
Why, you think I've gone senile or something? Not like it's been long enough for me to forget.
そうですね。
Sachi finally smiles. After a few more gentle strokes, I lower my hand from her head.
ありがとうございます、風見さん。
Well, sure, although I know it's not much of a reward considering the effort you put into the meal.
いえ、私には十分すぎるくらいです。
Deflecting my words in a light tone of voice, Sachi heads back off toward the kitchen to refill my plate. Guess you could say that's typical of Sachi, but there's such a thing as being too modest.
次は大浴場でお風呂の時間です。
Ablutions. Once the tableware's all been cleaned away, Sachi announces the next stage of her plans, carefully balancing a rubber duck on top of her head. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
風見さんも一緒に入られますか？
Thanks for the disturbingly casual invitation, but I didn't bring a towel or a change of clothes.
もしよろしければここに男性用の着替えもありますが。
Come to think of it, you mentioned something about that the day I moved in.
これで障害はなくなりました。
Is it just me, or is there a much bigger obstacle still remaining here? Such as, I don't know, common sense? Sorry, but I think I'll pass.
そうですか。
Normally, I wouldn't have a reason to refuse, but in this case, I feel like you need to carefully rethink when and why to make an offer like that.
わかりました。風見さんがそうおっしゃるならそうします。
Well, at least she listens to reason, although I'm far from confident she actually understands the underlying problem here.
では30分ほどで戻りますので、それまで部屋で待っていてください。
You don't mind leaving me in your room alone?
はい。ちなみに私の
I already know where you keep your underwear.
また心を読みましたか？
Not exactly. You told me yourself a few weeks ago, remember?
だとしたらその時の私は風見さんが部屋に来ることを予見していたんでしょうか？
Fascinating question, but I'm really not sure why you're asking me.
ではひとまず私は
Hold it. Just as Sachi moves to open her door, I reach out and intercept her hands.
やっぱり一緒に入りますか？
That's not it. There's someone on the other side of the door.
誰か
That said, the only real question is which of the four stooges couldn't contain their curiosity. Alright, listen up. Count to 3, then throw it open with me.
はい。
3, 2, 1. As expected, our sudden action prompts a distinctly feminine shriek.
急にドアが。
Glancing down, I find a dumbfounded Sakaki sprawled out on her backside a few feet away. And what are you doing out here? Your room's on the second floor, isn't it?
別に構わないでしょ。今日はたまたまボイラー室に用事があったのよ。
Why is it exactly that my classmates are such uniformly terrible liars? That's nice. By the way, Sachi's just heading off to the Grand Bath, just in case you were curious.
まさかあなたも一緒に？
Please, I'm staying here, obviously.
まあ当たり前ね。
Apparently somewhat relieved by this news, Sakaki lightly brushes her disabled bangs back into place.
それより小峰さん、風見くんに変なことを強要されたりしていない？
はい。今のところ性的な要求はありません。
そう。
Convinced now, surprising as it may seem to you, I'm a gentleman.
そんなことに興味はないわ。
Seems Sakaki has decided to trust me for the time being, as she abruptly turns away and heads back up the stairs. That girl's got it tough in her own right. Can't be easy going through life with that contrary a personality.
榊さんはみちる様に似てツンデレに近いところがあるんだと思います。
Might have a point there, sadly.
お先にお湯をいただきました。
30 minutes on the dot after the incident outside her door, Sachi pokes her slightly flushed face back into the room. Got out of there without fainting today, I see.
はい、マキちゃんとあまねさんから絶対に1万数えなくてもいいと言われましたから。
I see. Apparently, that brief conversation last night was in fact enough to reset Sachi's bathing behavior to something slightly more sane.
それで風見さんお気に入りの下着はどれだったんでしょう。
Does the dresser look like it's been disturbed since you left the room?
そうですか。
I really don't think that warrants such a disappointed tone of voice. Fighting off a wave of exasperation, I turn my attention from the untouched dresser back to Sachi to find her staring at me with a distinctly nonplussed expression. Something on your mind?
その私は今見るからに湯上がりの状態だと思うのですが。
At the very least, you don't resemble a pale old man wheezing after a marathon.
しかも男性が持つ征服欲を適度に刺激するメイド服姿です。
That you are.
だとすれば年頃の男性がとても口には出せないような烈情を抱いておかしくない状況だと思うのですが、風見さんはそうならないのでしょうか。
No, can't say it is.
なぜでしょう。私は今主としての死刑宣告を受けた気がします。
Relax, I'm not saying you're unattractive.
そうなのでしょうか。
Yeah, like I said with the bath, your problem is timing. Under the right circumstances, the sort of event you're imagining is perfectly possible. This isn't one of those times, that's all.
その見極めが私にできるでしょうか。
Not to worry. If that time comes, you're not going to be able to miss it, even if you want to.
なるほど。風見さんのお話はいつも勉強になります。
Although I'm certainly not going to guarantee it'll ever come to that. So, seems like you finally reached some genuine free time. What are you planning to do next?
眠ります。
What?
スリープです。
Just to be perfectly clear, I wasn't wondering about the meaning of your words.
では今の「は」は
I mean, it's not even 9 p.m. yet, right? Are you seriously planning to sleep already?
はい、用がない時はいつもこうですが、早寝は悪いことでしょうか。
No, I wouldn't say it's bad, but admittedly, I'm hardly an expert on the lifestyle of students these days, but I'm confident there aren't many of them who make a habit of going to bed this early. Especially in the case of young women, From what I've seen, you could add another 12 hours to every night, and it still wouldn't have enough time. Do you not watch television or play games? No time at all for recreation?
テレビはマキちゃんが見ようと言った時しか見ませんし、ゲームも皆さんから誘われない限りはやりません。
Seriously?
はい、嘘をついたら針を1000本飲むという約束ができるくらいです。
Frankly, it's still a little hard to believe that she doesn't relax at all, but from what I see of this room, she certainly doesn't seem to have much in the way of entertainment-oriented belongings. And Sachi's personality being what it is. Guess it really was literally true.
人の言うことをよく聞いて夜更かしはしない。それがいい子ですから。
In an instant, Sachi delivers that oddly phrased sentence with a smile on her face. I finally realize the nature of the unease I've been feeling about her behavior. It's pretty simple, really. She resembles me. Organizing her life around diligently following orders, she never allows herself to doubt them, let alone defy those who make use of her. And almost as an extension of that, her private activities are a little more than the bare minimum routines of daily existence. The same as me, in other words. Grilling her about recreation is more than a little hypocritical on my part. Looking at Sachi, I've been seeing myself, and the discomfort I felt was a reflection of my uncertainty about my own way of life.
Anshin, できましたか?
Huh? Taken off guard by her question, I respond in an unusually feeble tone of voice.
最近の風見さんはどこか私のことを心配してくれているようでしたので、普段の私を見てもらうことで風見さんの不安が少しでも解消されたのなら嬉しいです。
Well, this is yet another surprise. Didn't think I was so transparent about a schoolgirl, that a schoolgirl could see through me. Alright, I understand that much, but what made you think I was feeling relieved?
なんだか風見さんが笑っているような気がしたんです。
Smiling?
はい、私にはそう見えました。
I don't remember grinning to myself during that little internal monologue. If anything, the look on my face should have been something like surprise. But apparently something about my face suggested a smile to her. I see. I was right about one thing. You really are an interesting one, Sachi.
この場合、それは褒め言葉になるのでしょうか。
I'll let you decide how to interpret it, but at the very least, it's better than boring, right?
どちらにしても複雑な評価です。
Sachi said relieving my anxiety would make her happy. I'm not sure I understand the exact meaning of those words, but looking back on it, this visit did inspire a mysterious sense of tranquility. Whatever the details, I don't think that can be a bad thing. Well, guess I've confirmed the mechanics of your free time policy, but before we wrap things up, let's make arrangements to clear up the other matter as well.
もう一つの疑問ですか?
Yeah, we were going to see how difficult a question it takes to stump you, remember?
そういえばそんなお話もありましたね。
Summer vacation starts the day after tomorrow, so we might as well take care of that fairly soon. What's your schedule like?
そうですね。今のところ大きな予定は入っていません。
Does that mean you won't be heading home for the break?
それはおじさんたちから連絡があればといった感じです。
Guess a slightly less intimate connection with home might not be too surprising when you're living with a less immediate relative. Okay, so how about starting right off the bat the day after tomorrow? That work for you?
はい、大丈夫です。
Alright, we'll assemble in the classroom at 1 p.m. 2 days from now.
あさっての午後1時に学園の教室ですね。
Right.
ということは私は今風見さんと約束をしたということになりますよね。
Well, I guess you could put it that way.
わかりました。では約束です。
Yeah, sure. That's settled. I won't keep you from your sleep any longer. Have a good rest.
はい、すぐに風見さんの分のお布団もご用意させていただきますね。
Thanks anyway, but that's not going to be necessary. I still haven't overcome the constant unease I feel toward myself, or my doubts about my lax new life in this place, but I have learned something new in the last few days. There's someone else like me here. For some reason, I feel like this objectively pointless little quiz game I've been entrusted with is going to yield interesting results. Not that I have any concrete reason to believe that, but it's not an unpleasant feeling. By the time I reach my room, I'm almost looking forward to it.
サブジェクトが部屋に戻ったのよ。
さすがにお泊まりってことはなかったみたいね。
それは絶対ないってあまねえ分かってたよな。
分かってたけど一応心配したくなるの。
その意味がさっぱりわかんねえけど、お前も難儀な性格だな。
いいじゃない。それが女の子ってもんなのよ。
Okay, that's enough for me.
おはようございます、
Oh.
風見さん。
I can see you start the next part there. That's a lot of information about Sachi in that part. Yeah, that was long, but well, I just wanted to see Yuuji see all of that of her day, and she did do stuff in the classroom before that as well, and then after that. Yeah. So yeah, I know that was a lot, but she's pretty interesting. It's just beginning for her, really. That's all I can do for this one. It's gotten too long now. I gotta stop. Okay, bye.